What is up, guys? It's Flash, back with some more charts and another video. It's Friday, June 28th. It's 3:15 p.m. Eastern. We're coming up to 4 p.m., which is the market close. It's the monthly close, it's the quarterly close, and also the semestrial close, the 6-month close. So pretty important day in terms of candles throughout the year or years and the quarter. But going to go through what I refer to as my puzzle pieces list, just a selection of tickers and ratios that really help me kind of keep a clear head when it comes to knowing where the capital is ultimately flowing. And so we're going to start off with SPY, SPX, the S&P 500. We're on the hike in the sheet candles. This is the monthly time frame. And guys, if you followed me for a little bit, you know that I think we're kind of set up to do. I grabbed the fractal from the 1970s. I think from a macro perspective, I think we are going to start trending a little bit sideways and chop around for the next decade or so. I know it's kind of a big statement. It's a big picture thing, but some of these ratios are kind of telling me that's what's kind of occurring, right? So, I don't know exactly where we would be in any of these humps, but I do think we're entering some sort of consolidation. And I know there are a couple lines on this chart, but ultimately, I think we're going to follow this. This is the fractal right here from the 1970s. I think we're going to, it kind of rhymed a little bit in here. See it? There's two dips here, big move up, another little dip in consolidation. There was the March 2020 event, bigger move up, and then another dip here. You can't really see it, but I'm kind of dragging it to the side so you can see it. And then I think we could be finding a short-term top in the SPY. Obviously, it looks super, super strong, and no one wants to just be calling a bear market. But a lot of things are like, man, it's oversold, and I don't know how long they can keep it up for. And by they, who is behind the market? Is it truly the buyers and sellers? Is there something else involved? I'm not so sure. I'm just tracking it really. And if we jump over to the Nasdaq. We're kind of poking our head above this channel, which I have here. A lot of these lines do hold up pretty well, so interesting to follow along here, but I do think we're going to begin to maybe make a move down in the near future. Another big ratio I'll look at, and I'll move out to the quarterly on this one, is the SPX divided by PPI, proxy for inflation, the producer price index. And so, the SPX can get wrecked by inflation. It goes up and to the right in the long term from a nominal standpoint, but there are some notable corrections when you compare it to PPI inflation. For example, like the '08 financial crisis was a lower low, and nominally it was kind of a double bottom right here. So we're at the top of the channel. This is a pretty solid channel. There's 3 touch points on it, 1, 2, and 3. And there's a handful on the bottom with a little bit of a dip or fake out below here. So the way I look at it is the S&P is at the top, and we're going to look at gold next, but gold is like just breaking out from a 13-year cup and handle pattern. So this makes me think that, okay, the S&P has had a great run. It may continue, it may roll over now, this rounded top here. It may roll over, and we may see some continued strength out of gold, and we may see capital flow into the gold commodity complex, right? So gold, silver, oil, uranium, commodity stuff. And so when we look at gold, and this is what I mean by it, we're still in the quarterly time frame, but a big picture chart, this is incredibly strong, it looks like, right? Like, I think we're gonna repeat some sort of fractal as we did from the 2001 time frame to 2012. So I think we're going to continue to go up and to the right, and then silver will drop back down onto the monthly. Silver just looks amazing. I mean, this is a bull playing out, right? A lot of people can ask me, do these bulls really play out? And I mean, here's another one, big cup. This took decades to complete. Like, that's a bull right there. And then there could be another handle within that cup and handle, right? So silver looks great, and then we can look at the gold to SPX ratio. And here's, we can go out to the 3-month again, and we'll see if this holds up. But there's a huge bull here that has a lot of good touch points, and we're kind of seeing a lot more volatility over time. It's like in this broadening broadening wedge pattern. And so, my thesis, or, what this ratio is telling me is, hey, we're turning a huge ship here, and we could be nearing a breakout for gold to break out versus the S&P 500. Again, we look back at the SPY chart, versus inflation. We're at the top of this band. Like, this is pretty much as high as it can go. Sure, we could break out and continue higher. I don't necessarily foresee that happening. I think this trend relatively is going to hold for us. And then we'll see the rotation of capital out of the S&P into gold and the commodity complex. Another one that we look at is the gold to silver ratio. We want this to go down. If you can add some symbols here, and we can add like CCJ, or we could add a number of them. But when this ratio goes down, that is good for our energy commodity complex investments, right? Over to NVIDIA. I know we're kind of skipping around here a little bit. We can go on the regular candle chart. I don't know, this looks like some sort of wedge. Sure, this could continue to go up and maybe sideways. Ultimately, I think it's going to come down, at least retest this channel. But wow, I mean, what a cool chart. NVIDIA. Missed the boat on that one. But over to Bitcoin. So here's kind of, I think Bitcoin is right in line with the S&P 500 and the NASDAQ. Like, I think Bitcoin is just leveraged to that market, right? It's a risk-on asset. And so what we see here is a pretty good, compelling dome, or upside down arc, or bull, whatever you want to call it. And we're finding resistance against it right now. So I think if we continue to see gold, and then we can look at gold versus Bitcoin. So again, it's kind of a mirror image. It's flipped, but it's gold instead of the US dollar. I think gold is we'll see if it can get through this pocket throughout 2025 and see if we can head our way up this arc. We'll see, right? It's just a ratio. We'll see. Okay, over to Google. I have some of the Mag 7 stocks, but Google's just looking super strong. But I wouldn't rule out like something like that even. I don't know. Keep my eye on it. Google's super strong. I think it's the AI craze. It's NVIDIA. It's Google. I think there is something to the AI stuff. I won't lie. Over to Apple. Totally neglected the dome that I had on this, so we can delete that for now. It's remaining in this channel. And, the S&P 500, and it's not going to roll over immediately, right? So we would probably see Google and Apple kind of giving us signs that there is some weakness, and that isn't the case yet. But Patrick Hurim from Northstar just tweeted out today a look at Nike. And if we look at Nike, this is a big, we'll put it on the quarterly on Nike. Huge trend line that Nike's breaking. So I'm not saying that the Mag 7 stocks are going to follow this, but I think Nike could be an early warning sign of potentially things to come in the stock market. So that's interesting, right? And then we have Tesla. Tesla, again, it's kind of come into life here a little bit, but if we put the moving average on, the 3-year moving average, it's still going to have to fight through that. And that's currently kind of rolling over, and that's why I have this little arc. It's kind of projecting out a potential path of that 3-year moving average. And at the same time, Tesla looks like it's in this accumulation cylinder, right? So I would expect, if the market's going to continue to roll, if it's going to roll over, not continue to roll over, that Tesla may need some more time before ultimately breaking out in maybe 2026 or 2027. We'll look at GDX, and here is kind of that capital flowing into potentially GDX, right? It's this bowl shape, it's this base. I'm expecting capital to continue flowing into GDX throughout the remainder of the decade, and potentially, we'll see what happens from there. Too early to tell, but there is kind of a measured move on this if there is a base, if this is a base. Same thing with SILJ. I wish we had more data here, but clear breakout on SILJ. Nice green candles and just a little bit of a consolidation right now. We'll go over to oil. And here's what I'm seeing on oil. I think it's a big bull flag. Breakout, retest, triangle or bull, whatever you want to call it. I think oil is going to be going higher in the near future as well. And that would then play into XOP and OIH, really. and a lot of the individual oil stocks. But XOP looks super bullish. I guess there's another, we could put a trend line right here. So it's still got some work to do, but man, XOP looks really, really good. And same with OIH. I think we're going to hold this channel on OIH, and we have a breakout of a descending trend line, doing some consolidation, probably building the energy to continue higher. And then good old URA, right? Put the moving average back on, the 3-year moving average. It's following this cyclic bull. And what I can also do is, I think I have my object tree here. I'll leave that off for now. That's for another video. But again, we're kind of not the greatest month of June. But again, if you watch my previous videos, I think we're going to be bottoming, troughing in late July, early August. I think that's going to be a really good time to be looking at uranium plays. We are above support, monthly, well-defined support right here, right here, right here, right here, right here. And we just got to let this moving average push us up, guide us up the arc. Then we can look at URA in gold, measured in gold. We want to be outperforming gold if it's going to be going up. And again, not a great candle here, but we're right on the 3-year moving average, and we're looking like it's some sort of bullish wedge, perhaps, right? A breakout of this wedge and some sort of consolidation. So whether we do like an ABC pattern, ABC, maybe make a lower low, that's okay with me. And then that could be the trigger for when we would shoot up. So this is looking good. I'm not really worried about this. The candles are really nice here. A lot of green candles here. You can even zoom out to the 3-month, the quarterly time frame. I mean, look at the green candles. Talk about the green army. Andy from Finding Value talks about the green army of candles that show up. And on the quarterly time frame, we have some big green candles here. And even just a small 3, 6, 9, a 9-quarter or a 3-quarter consolidation, almost a whole year. But we had a big green candle here pushing us up. So I think we're ultimately going to be supportive here, and price will guide us up. And then last but not least, the Dow Jones measured in gold. And just look at where we are. We're about to waterfall down. And that is going to be so good for gold. It's so strong. Again, this tells me that stock markets are kind of rolling over measured in gold. And this is clear as day, honestly. And then what I'm also going to do here, I'm going to add the ASA chart, Gold and Precious Metals Limited. This is kind of a proxy for our commodity complex assets, right? And I do this because there's a lot of data. And so let's put that on the line. I just want to show you guys, like, when this rolls over, when the Dow rolls over versus gold, again, that attracts gold capital to the gold space, to commodities. ASA does a huge bull market right here from 71 through 1980. That's 9 years. This is bigger than daily price action, right? These are huge macro trends. And then Dow Jones takes over in the white. We roll over against gold. And look what ASA does. It goes straight to the moon. Straight to the moon. And so here, again, we look like we're rolling over. I expect this to waterfall down, gold to be a vast outperformer. And for ASA, the precious metals fund to go to the moon. And that would include precious metals like GDX, SILJ, all the stocks in those things, XOP, OIH, all those oil stocks. And obviously uranium. Our uranium stocks are going to go to the moon. That's my perspective, and it's literally screaming that to us in the face. So we'll take ASA off the chart, go back down to the monthly, and we gotta let this play out. We have a similar look as the Dow to gold, and this is the Russell in gold. So this just shows, like, man, the Russell's making a lower high over the course of 20 years, and we're on our way down to eventually, I think, waterfall again and maybe touch the bottom of this trend line. We'll see by 2030 or so. So that's ultimately, guys, this ratio is giving me a lot of confidence that, hey, we need to sit tight with uranium and oil and commodity picks, and hopefully pick some good ones. We'll look at the ratios as we go. We'll look at momentum, but ultimately, this gives me clarity that things are playing out. It's taking its time, right? So hopefully this was helpful for you guys. I know that was a lot of lines, a lot of charts, but drop me a like if you found it useful, and I'll see you guys in July.